Alright, so welcome back. Today we're going to make it so that if we move two pieces that don't make a match, they're going to swap back nice and neatly like that and not interfere with anything else we've done. So let's dive in. So where we left off last time, we're able to swap our pieces. We have a nice little game loop that gets created from that where new pieces that fall in could possibly make a match, or pieces that fall could make a match with other pieces that were on the board. And if that happens, it keeps finding those matches, collapsing the columns, bringing new pieces in, not letting us move anything until everything has settled itself. So it gives us a nice little game loop that we can work with. Now what we want to do today is we want to make it so that if we swap two pieces that don't make a match, we want them to move back. So let's dive right into that. So right away, let me go out of distraction-free mode just so everybody can see where I'm at. I'm in my game window script. I'm going to go to my grid script, and then let's open this up in distraction-free mode. And what I want to do here is I want to first store a few variables, just so that I know what's going on. And actually, let me write out kind of a little skeleton of a code so that we know what variables I want to store. So I'm going to put this next to swap pieces here. And I'm going to call this function, we'll call it swap back. And this isn't going to take any arguments for the moment. And I'm just going to throw in a pass statement here. I'm just going to use some comments. So what I want to do is I want to move the previously swapped pieces back to the previous place. So that's pretty simple. Now, if I move them back, the other thing I'm going to want to do is change the game state. So I'm going to say state, let's just use state equals move. Okay, so in order to move these pieces back, I'm going to need to store some information. First, I'm going to need to know what the two pieces were, so I can check to make sure that they still exist, because if they were already deleted, then I don't need to worry about swapping anything back, because one or both of them was already taken from the board. So I need to have a variable that can store the previously moved two pieces. Second, I need to have a variable that can tell me the column and row of the previous move, and then also the direction of the previous move. And we're going to need one more variable than that, but we'll talk about that in just a second here. So I'm going to go up here to where my global variables are, and I'm going to add some of that in. So might as well put it here next to my current pieces. Put a comment here. We'll call this swap back variables. So variables that are needed to swap back. I'm going to call the first one variable piece1, and I'm going to default it to null to start. Second one I'm going to call piece2, and I'm going to default that to null as well. Then I need to have that column and row, and rather than store that as two separate variables, I'm going to store it as a vector2. So I'm going to call that var, I'll call that last place, and that's going to be equal to a vector2 0 0. I need to have the direction as well, so we'll call this var last direction, and I'm going to set that equal to vector2 0 0. Okay, so we're storing all that information here. Now, what I want to do with that is once I swap pieces, I then call find matches. Find matches then checks the entire board for matches. I really want to come back and revisit this. I'll do that once we get the core functionality in. We'll refactor. Then it starts a destroy timer. When the destroy timer goes off, then we call destroy matches, or destroy matched. And destroy match goes through everything and checks to see if there are pieces that are matched, and then it calls collapse columns after it destroys the piece. Now, what we want to do, or I guess what we can do, this is what I decided to do. So I'm going to put a little teeny tiny local variable in here that is going to tell whether or not there was something matched. So we'll call this variable like was matched, and I'll default that to false. I don't need to default it to false because Booleans default to false anyway, but it's no big deal. Now we're going to check width height, and we're going to check all the pieces, and if we find one that's matched, I want to say was matched equals true. So that means that I now know if something was true. Now after I get out of all of these for loops and the two if loops as well, so right above get parent, just one indent level over, I only want to do the collapse timer if there was a piece that was matched. So we'll say if was matched, then I'll do this get parent get node. If there wasn't a piece that was matched, then what I want to do instead, so else, I want to do that swap back. And my swap back method right up here. So else I'm going to do swap back. Now, just to prove this is going to work, in my swap back, I'm going to add a little teeny tiny print. So I'm going to say print no match. Okay, so let's play. And I want to swap two pieces that don't make a match. And I don't have my output up and running, so no match. There we go. Didn't do anything with it, but it knew that there wasn't a match. So now, let's get rid of this little debug statement, and let's actually have this function do some stuff. So we want to move the previously swapped pieces back to their places. So we could duplicate all of this swap pieces code, but we don't need to do that. We can just use that method. So I want to do swap, or actually first I want to check to make sure that those two pieces aren't null. So if piece 1 is not null and piece 2 is not null, then I'm going to swap them back. So swap pieces, and for the column I'm going to use last place.x, row is last place.y, and then the direction is going to be last direction. And it seems like this should be fine. The issue though is it's not going to be fine. And let's actually indent this state equals move too, because well, no, we want it there. Okay, cool. So let's try this out now. If I hit play, I'm going to swap two pieces that don't match. Uh-oh. It's because I never stored the information. I didn't tell it what piece 1 and piece 2 were. So let's do that. I'm going to make another teeny tiny method here. I'll call this function store info. And this isn't going to take, well, yeah, this is going to need some arguments. So this is going to store the pieces that we move and the column and row and direction. So this is going to need to know a first piece, an other piece, we'll call it place, and a direction. I want to avoid using the same names I use for the global variables for these. So I don't want to use piece 1, piece 2, last place, or last direction. It's okay if I double up on the local variables, but I don't want to double up on global variables because then I'll override them. Okay, sorry about that weird cut. So here's what we want to do as far as our function store info goes. So we're going to store our piece 1. We're going to make that equal to the first piece. So piece 1 equals first piece. And then we're going to make piece 2 equal to the other piece. And then we're going to make our last place equal to place. And then we're going to make last direction equal to direction. Okay. Now we need to actually store that information somewhere. We've just made the function, we need to actually call it. And we're going to call it inside the swap pieces method after we check to make sure that both pieces aren't null. So we'll do store info, and we want to store first piece, other piece. We want to store column row as a vector 2, so we're going to do vector 2 column row, and then we want to store the direction. Alright, So what that's going to do is store that information, which means that now when we call swap back, those two things won't be null. So let's get out of distraction-free mode so we can see the output and give it a try. So I'm going to swap two pieces I know for sure won't make a match. Alright, so that's the issue that I was thinking was going to happen. So let's talk about exactly what that is. So in our logic here, we swap the pieces. It goes to find matches. Find matches runs. It starts the destroy timer. The destroy timer goes off. Destroy matched runs. If it doesn't find any matches, it's going to call swap back, which means that swap back is going to move the pieces back to where they are and put us back in the move state. But when it moves the pieces back to where they are, it runs find matches again. So we don't want to always run find matches. We want to only run find matches if there wasn't a, we don't want to run find matches if there wasn't a match on the board previously. So we're going to create a little boolean for this. So up here with my swap back variables, I'm going to add another little variable here. I'm going to call this var move checked, and I'm going to default it to false. So I only want to go find matches if move checked is false. So if not move checked, then I want to find matches. Now, that means that I have to manipulate this move checked variable. So in my destroy matches, where I'm actually checking to see if there are moves, I'm going to set it to be true. And I'm going to do that right before I do this if is was matched. So I'm going to say move, not move. That's what I called it, right? Move, yeah. Good Lord. Checked equals true. So that means we checked the move. And then where we swap back, when we set our state back to move, we're going to say move checked equals false. Okay, so let's try this out now. Let's go out of distraction-free mode here. Let's hit play. Let's swap two pieces that don't make a match. They move back. Two pieces that do make a match. Everything else works exactly like it should. Oh, except that didn't. What did I do? Move checked was false. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so what I forgot to do, after we set move check true, if it wasn't a match, then move check gets set back to false, but I never set it back to false if there was a match. So what I want to do is just here in my after refill method, right after I do state equals move, I'm going to say move checked equals false, because we wouldn't have checked the move we haven't made yet. So let's try this out. Let's give it a play. Alright, swap two pieces that don't make a match. They swap back. And then let's just play for just a hot minute here. Make sure that everything's going to work like it should. Alright, cool. I haven't had any combos yet. Oh, there we go. There's a combo. Alright, and let's try swapping two pieces that don't make a match again. Alright, cool. Two pieces that do. Alright. So, now we get to start to do some fun stuff, some board layout stuff. So, the next lesson we're going to go over is how to add blank spaces to your board to make it a little more interesting to look at. After that, we're going to talk about an equivalent to the jelly tiles, so that you can, break those tiles when you make a match underneath them. Then we'll do concrete, then we'll do chocolate, and then we'll move on to bombs and stuff. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the description down below. You can follow me on Twitter to find out when I post a new video. You can join my Discord, where I'm chatting pretty much every day. And yeah, I recently reached 1,000 subscribers, which is insane for me to think about. I'm going to be doing a special 1,000 subscriber video. I'm actually going to be doing 2. So watch out for those in the coming weeks. So, and thank you to everybody who subscribed. Every single one of you is a beautiful person who deserves a new bike. So have yourselves a wonderful day, and yeah, thank you.